I don't know if you heard, but no new films are coming out and the cinemas are closed, so working out what to review is a bit of a strange choice. I could pick something off Netflix's trending list, pay 15 quid for Trolls World Tour, or I could, I don't know, review a random collection of DVDs or something. So when I saw Time Trap trending on Netflix, yes, the 7th most watched film in the UK this week, thanks for the info Netflix, I was intrigued. Not by the cheesy title, and I think it is a very cheesy title, isn't it? It reminds me of episode titles for Stingray, which had such gems as The Big Gun. What really got my attention was the plot synopsis. While searching for their missing archaeology professor, a group of students discovers a cave where time passes differently than it does on the surface. I'm a sucker for time travel stories. I just think there's something inherently dramatic about the idea of moving through time. Forwards or back, I'm not really fussy, and it sounded like it would have a cool explanation behind it instead of a silly machine or magical portal. Well, as you'll find out in this review, appearances can be deceiving, but Time Trap is not without its merits. First things first, we ought to talk about that plot synopsis. It's a little off. There are exactly 2 students of this professor, hunky lead Taylor and sarky Jackie. They're joined by Kara, a blonde woman who Taylor fancies, who for some reason brings along her 13-year-old sister, who brings along her 13-year-old mate for some other reason. Now I can see why this wasn't in the synopsis, because it doesn't make sense. Pro tip: if your experienced archaeology professor disappeared while exploring an uncharted cave system in a wilderness area, maybe don't bring children with you on a rescue mission. Just don't, it's not a good idea. 13-year-old number 1, the annoying little sister, is pretty forgettable, but her buddy Furby is nothing short of astonishing. He is the randiest little kid I have ever seen in one of these movies. He's on screen for literally less than a few seconds before someone tells an anecdote about him having a wank. He calls Jackie My Queen and gives everyone these wireless-enabled GoPros for which the password is Fart Factory. Furby is awful, but he's also kind of a hero. He's also intensely grating, but luckily he's off-screen for most of the movie. On that subject, let's talk about the actors. Do you recognise any of them? No, neither did I. The reason that they're all unknowns is because the film is really cheap, at least by movie standards. It looks like a low to mid-level episode of television that happens to have ambitions far beyond its station. That doesn't just show in the effects, but also in the relatively simple cinematography and in the setting as well. They basically just sit in this cave for the whole movie. So with a cast of unknowns delivering pretty unpolished dialogue in a cheaply produced setting, you might be forgiven for thinking that my review is going to be all negative. Well, hopefully you're pleasantly surprised. Time Trap isn't great. I'm pretty sure it's not actually good, but it is interesting. Once the silly setup is out of the way, there's some cool visuals. As they're inside the slow timescale of the cave, they look out to see the sun cycling past at high speed. That's a cool idea that translates into a striking image. Good work, filmmakers. As the time travel elements get more involved, there's higher stakes and better character drama, and then the differing timescales begin to give it an interesting structure as well. And suddenly, instead of a bad movie with a bad budget, you have a pretty interesting movie that's held back by its unfortunately low budget. The 2 filmmakers behind this movie, Mark Dennis and Ben Foster, have only made one other film. And now, with their low-budget sci-fi that came out in 2017, for some reason they're up in the Netflix charts, punching way above their weight. If it takes an algorithmic quirk to get you noticed, then that's okay in my book. And looking at Time Trap as a second feature, it's really uneven and goofy, and believe me, avoiding spoilers means not talking about some very goofy things that happen in this film, but it does have several marks of quality that make me interested in seeing what happens when the filmmakers behind it get more time and money. Maybe they'll make something with a similar level of quirk and invention, but with the supportive machinery of a developed team behind them. You can imagine that those acting issues could be ironed out with more experienced leads and better casting. There could be more consistent production design and effects work to more fully realize the worlds of their movies, and glossier cinematography could really widen the scope of their filmmaking. Or the studio system will strip their work of what makes it special, file off the edges, and destroy their spirit. Hard to say, but my fingers are crossed for them. That's it from me, but as ever, I'd love to discuss this oddball, goofy, scrappy sci-fi in the comments below, so let's have a chat. Have a good one and stay safe. Bye for now.